This week on the show.
And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to get fired. Like I thought I was losing the job because that happens all the time. So I thought, oh no, like I did all this work. I'm so excited.
Anna Hopkins.
And he said, dye her hair black. And he was like, are you okay with that? And I was like, yeah, sure. And so we just went pitch black, dyed the hair, redid it. And then he was like, yes, this is Lilith. And that really helped me get into the role too.
Actor, writer, director.
And Steven, was always the best. And I remember, nearing the end of the series, he was talking to me about how he really wanted Samantha to stay because he liked the idea that Oliver had a relationship with a female character that wasn't romantic. I mean, to be part of something that is so critically acclaimed and loved is really special, and also something that was canceled and brought back by Amazon. That was an incredible thing to see.
Known for her work in The Expanse, Arrow, Shadowhunters.
I always take this advice really seriously, and I think people in the arts really should do this. And if you don't, you get trapped. As she goes, you have to live your life, and you have to enrich your life.
Let's talk to Anna Hopkins on the Very Creative Podcast. Anna Hopkins, how's it going?
It's going very well.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I'm so glad to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
We were
saying that, we've worked together for a while now, but we haven't ever really met. So
yeah. Yeah. For those who don't know, Anna's been super generous in terms of helping me and Sana, the girl I work with, for Radio Dodo. Radio Dodo is the first international radio for all children, but especially the children that are in difficulty living in countries at war. And I'll put a link down there. But I just wanted to say publicly, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
For all your help.
It's an amazing project, and I love to be a part of it.
Yeah. Anna's read so many stories for us, and she continues to do so, and just been amazing. So thank you. Yeah. All right. Introduce yourself to everyone.
Okay. Well, hi. I'm Anna Hopkins. And I guess I say I'm an actress. I'm a writer.
Yeah.
I'm a new director. I'm a person. I'm a Montrealer living in Toronto.
That's what we have in common. We're both from Montreal.
Yeah.
We've both been to Dawson too. I've seen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dawson.
But
what did you study in Dawson?
Same program.
Cinema and communication.
Yeah. I did 1 year of that and then went straight to university in Toronto. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And studied a bit at Armstrong Acting Studio too. So I know you.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. I love Armstrong Acting Studios. I teach there. I used to teach there more, but obviously during the pandemic, in-person classes are not happening. But it's a great place.
Yeah, it started online after I left more, and now I'm sure with the pandemic, it's even just
online.
It's a great school. I had a lot of fun and made a lot of friends. So learned a lot. All right. So how this podcast works is I like to go through how the guest grew up and to where they're now and how that creativity developed. So talk a bit about growing up and finding that creativity. What was your family like? Were they creative? Yeah.
Nothing stays buried forever, especially not the past. Yesterday is Not Yet Gone, a mystery novel by Gabriel Veiga, host of the Very Creative Podcast. Available now, paperback and digital. GabrielVeiga.com. Buy it now.
Yeah, my family they're all in some way or other artists. My father was a painter. My mom was a painter and a graphic designer growing up. That was her work. And my brother also in the arts. So the whole family it was very natural to, go towards the arts. Although when I was younger, I kind of started to get more involved in the performing arts. So I was dancing a lot.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, I always feel very lucky that I had a family that they nurtured any sort of creativity. And so, you often hear people say, I wanted to be an artist, but I went to, med school instead and that sort of thing. And, if I wanted to go to med school, I think my parents would be like, what the hell? Like,
oh, really?
Oh, wow. Yeah. Like it's very, I actually am very it's very conforming in a lot of ways because it's just part of the family. So, so I started in dance, and then in high school, I got involved in theater. And actually a teacher at my school, so I went to Royal West in West, and a teacher at my school, Terry Smiley, her son is Jacob Tierney, who is also from Montreal. He's a director. Right. And at the time he was an actor. So he started acting as a kid. And his sister, Bridget. Anyways, the teacher, called her son's agent and said, you got to come to the school and see this girl in a play. I was doing a play, and she thought I was, she thought there was something there. So that's kind of how I got my first agent, Karen Benzikin, who is still one of my agents to this day. So I've known her since I was 17. And I started to audition, and, I started to work. Right. And I started studying with an acting coach, Jacqueline McClintock in Montreal, who was very, very formative in my life. Studied with her for almost 8 years. So as I was doing university, I was in communications, I was writing, but outside of school, I was studying acting. And I got some work. I got the first film was Barney's Version in Montreal. Right. And that kind of started the ball rolling. And I always had a very supportive environment for any of my creative endeavors. Yeah. So now this all sounds very everything worked out perfectly. There was a lot of rejection and there still is so much. Yeah. But that's generally the arc of how I, really got into it and learned the craft of acting and started working professionally. And then I moved to Toronto and that sort of changed things as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's great that you say there was a lot of rejection, because I think a lot of people look at the Instagram, they look at the paper, the Wikipedia thing, and they're like, oh, she just has a lot of project or whatever. And they're like, oh, how do I do that? And she was so lucky, but you work hard and it's a lot of rejection. And at some point, because I've auditioned too. And at some point you're just like, I don't care. I don't care. Yeah.
Yeah. I think for acting and with auditioning, it's, you really have to, some of the hardest work is managing your own brain.
Right.
And getting a bit of a grip on reality, which is the fact that the way in which a person gets a role, I mean, you hear it all the time, but it's so completely out of your hands.
Yeah.
that it's pretty much a numbers game, and you've got to, basically all you can do is make sure every time you're seen, you are the best that you can be. And you can't really think about anything beyond that. And so it just becomes like a ratio, how many times will I be seen and do a good job? And, for every job I've gotten, I would say, no joke, probably 50 rejections, maybe more. So you see how getting caught up in a rejection of an audition stops you before anything can even happen.
Yeah.
And so I think it took me almost 10 years to really understand the art and the world of auditioning and how it's so different than what acting is about and what your job really is. Yeah. And if you can really differentiate the two, then you start to become a little more free. You don't get into your head so much about, I'm not good enough and I'm wrong for this part. And it's like, no, just do your job, plant the seed, and then you have no idea, what grows from that. Sometimes 2 years later, I've gotten, we saw you audition that one time. And I was thinking, well, I never heard from them and I probably suck, and it's, you have to manage your brain.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. So talk a bit about, was Barney your first film experience or?
Yeah, Barney's version was my first film. So right out of high school, my first job was limited series called Human Trafficking, which was really, I didn't even know what an acting job really was. Like, I was in acting class a lot. So I was doing, scene study and stuff like that. And I was going out to some auditions and I got a call from my agent. I was actually in Dawson at the time in the corner, really? I remember. And she goes, all right, you booked a part, and you're going to Prague. You're going to Prague in 10 days, and you've got 10 days on set or something. Wow. And I thought, oh shit, like what is this now? I didn't know. I'm like, how does this work? What, they're sending me scripts. Anyway, so that was like really my first job. And then Barney's version was almost, it was about 5 years later. Right. And that was my first film. Yeah. And
was that your first time working with big stars or?
Oh yeah. I mean, Human Trafficking, there were Donald Sutherland and but I didn't work a ton with them. Right. So yeah, Barney's version was great. I remember, going in for the auditions, and the audition process was very long. They kept on changing their mind and saying, you're in the running. Oh, you're no longer in the running, or we want to see you again, but we want you to do something different. And I kept going. And over time, what was happening was they started to announce, in the media, like who was being cast in this film. So at the beginning of the first audition, I thought, because Mordecai Richler is often adapted in Quebec. So I thought maybe it was like a CBC series or something. Right. I had no idea about anything. And I remember right before one of my callbacks, I saw on the front page of the Gazette, they said, Paul Giamatti cast as the lead in Barney's version. And I was auditioning for his daughter. And I was like, oh my God, what? Oh my God. And after that audition, I still hadn't gotten the part. Big news. Dustin Hoffman has been cast in Barney's version, and it just kept going and going. And the stakes were getting higher and higher for me because I wanted it so badly, but they still were not like pulling the trigger. Right. And I finally got the final audition. I remember there were so many people in the room. My dad drove me there. Like, he's waiting for me outside, and you think it goes okay. And I finally got the call, and it was my agent, Karen, who signed when I was in high school. And she calls me, and I remember specifically, she said, "Are you sitting down?" And I knew that was good news, because you're always reading their voice when they call you, because they might be saying, which always happens, this is the lingo, "Unfortunately, it's not going your way." That's like a big phrase. Yeah. They didn't respond to your last call back, sadly. But this time she said, "Are you sitting down?" And that's when I knew, oh my God. And I called my acting teacher, because she had coached me on the audition, and it was so crazy. And at the time I was working at Tavern on the Square restaurant in Westmount.
Right.
And I remember I got a missed call. And on my break, I call the number back, and it's the production. And they said, "By the way, there's been a last minute dinner organized for the cast tonight, if you want to come." And
that's scary.
Yeah. And I'm like working. And I'm like, fuck. And I said, I might be able to make it. I'm not sure. And they gave me the address. And I hang up the phone, and it starts raining outside. And I was working on the patio.
Oh boy.
So I got cut. My boss says, "We don't need you anymore. It's raining. I'm so sorry." And I was like, I can go to this dinner.
Right.
So I get into a cab, and I go to, what's the restaurant? Milos on Park.
Right.
And I'm early, and I'm in my waitressing clothes. Like, I'm just like in like my black clothes. Like, I'm like putting perfume on, trying to like not smell like a restaurant. And I walk in, and I say, "I'm here with the group for Barney's version." And the hostess said, "No, nobody's really here yet, but there's a few people. You go to the bar and wait for them there." So I walk over to the bar, and it's just Dustin Hoffman and Giamatti. And I'm usually like normal with people in general, but I lost my mouth got so dry. And the first thing Dustin Hoffman said to me, he goes, "You need a martini." And he orders me a martini. Anyways, that was the beginning of the experience. It was incredible. And that changed a lot for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it all fun after that? Was it stressful or
the movie?
Yeah. Shooting that after,
yeah. I mean, I think that it wasn't stressful. I worked really hard to prepare so that, and I worked with my acting coach so that once I got to set, I felt all right.
Right.
I look back on that movie now, and I look at my performance, and I think it's like so bad. I hate it so much. I can't watch that movie. The movie's great though.
Yeah.
But
how many scenes did you have?
Oh, I had a lot of scenes. I don't remember how many specifically, but
okay, it was a huge part then.
Yeah, it was a big part, and it's it's based on a book. I remember reading the book after I got the role, and it was really, really impactful. It's a really beautiful book, and the daughter in the book is quite developed. So I got a lot of information about her character before even reading the script.
Right.
So no, it was just generally, and I only worked mostly with Paul Giamatti, who was, he's one of the nicest, actors in the industry. Like many people say that, and it's very true.
Yeah.
And we had a very, very, warm relationship, especially on camera. So I think it was really a special experience. I haven't really had a film experience like that since. Those don't come around that often.
Yeah. It was lightning in a bottle a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
And then what happened after that? Did people recognize you from that, or how did the acting happen after that?
Still in school, so I was still at Concordia.
Right.
And before I got the role, I had applied to do a year abroad. I had applied to a couple of places. I really wanted to go elsewhere to finish my degree. And after the film, we finished shooting, I was accepted to go to Paris to finish my semester. And I remember talking to my agent and saying, is it a bad time for me to just like leave? Because I wouldn't be acting if I went,
Right.
And she said, and I always take this advice really seriously. And I think people in the arts really should do this. And if you don't, you get trapped. As she goes, you have to live your life, and you have to enrich your life, So sometimes we all get so caught up with getting the next job and just being so plugged into this, craft, which is very important, but you also can forget that the experiences that you get in the real world make you a better artist and make you, happier in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So, I know some agents who would have said, no, you should not leave. This is a very important time. We can use this and blah, blah, blah. But she has always been a really positive person in that way in my life, who said, go do it. Come back when you're ready.
Yeah.
And so I did. And
that's so important though. Like that's really important for an actor to just live their lives.
Exactly. And
wait for the call, because that's exhausting too.
You can wait. You can put everything on hold at a certain point. This happens all the time with actors and taking vacations or taking time off. We never really have time off. Right. You're always working on the weekends, and whether you're auditioning or you're all this stuff, and you start to learn like, no, I need maybe a bit of time to just do something else. So anyways, I went away, and the film, and I probably could have really used that to get more work at that point, but I chose a different path, and I went away, and I came back, and the film was finished, and it premiered at TIFF, or it premiered in Venice, and then it did TIFF. Yeah. And I remember going to TIFF. It's like everyone has these stories. It's so common, but I had probably like $20 in my bank account at the time, but yet they fly you there and they pay for everything. So you're like in like a limo, and you're in this like 5-star hotel, and everything's paid for, but you have no money. Like, wow. My mom bought me a dress to wear, like for the, it was like that sort of thing. Cause I hadn't been working, I was in school, and
it's so funny, Yeah.
It's so hilarious. So you see these photos on the carpet, and I'm telling you, so many actors experience this, because usually the film happened over a year ago. Right. You probably didn't even make that much money off of it anyways. Yeah. And then you're thrust into these premieres that are just like so epic. So we're walking at the time, I was paired with Masha Grenon, who was in the film as well, for all of the press. And at the time she was with Denis Villeneuve. And so it was the three of us in the limos going around TIFF, and I'm just like, what's happening? And, Paul Giamatti's there and everything. So, but at TIFF, at the premiere, after the drinks, we are all having drinks, and Paul Giamatti's manager approached me, and she said, do you have any representation in the US? And I said, no. And she gave me her card, and she said, give me a call. And so that started, I started to go down to New York to audition and get that ball rolling. But, it still took me, that was like when I was, I guess, 22. It took me until I was about 26 to really get another kind of big role. Yeah. And that was when I moved to Toronto. So between 21 and 26, I was just pounding the pavement. I was audition after audition after audition, call back. It's between you and someone else. It's not going your way, over and over and over, like constant. And, but it wasn't so horrible, because I was still trying to live my life,
Right.
And yes, I still was working in the restaurants and I was still doing this, but I was finishing school and I was happy about that. And I was interested in writing and stuff like that. So I tried to balance out the massive, massive rejections for like 4 years straight.
Yeah. Looking back, are you glad it happened that way?
Oh yeah. I wouldn't really change anything. Like,
yeah,
that's what's so interesting about acting is that, or any creative endeavor, is that you really can't compare your path with anyone else. It's so specific. Whatever door closes for you specifically, there's another one that opens because of it. And it's this sort of really delicate layering of how your opportunities kind of present themselves. So, there's some projects out there that I, wish they went my way, but, then I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. And, so of course, the rejections are really one of the most important parts of this career because it really forms you.
Yeah.
And, so I wouldn't change much.
Yeah.
Nothing stays buried forever, especially not the past.
Yesterday is Not Yet Gone, a mystery novel by Gabriel Veiga, host of the Very Creative Podcast. Available now, paperback and digital. GabrielVeiga.com. Buy it now.
I want to talk about Arrow, but do you have anything that you did before that after? Yeah.
Arrow. Well, I started. I went right as I moved to Toronto. I got an audition for Arrow, and it was for. I think I know now. Well, I know that it was for. I forget all the names. Black Canary, I guess. So it would have been. Yeah. So I got this audition. I got a call back, and actually, I was doing. It was right at the time I was doing a Québécois movie called Les Maîtres du Suspense with Stéphane Lemoyne.
Yeah.
And
was it after Katie Cassidy's character's death, or was that the Black Canary?
I believe it was for Katie Cassidy's role.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it was back in, I want to say like 2013, 14.
Okay.
So yes, exactly. Katie Cassidy ended up getting that role. So had callbacks for that role, and they never tell you what you're auditioning for.
Yeah.
But I remember there was many, many scenes where they made it. The scenes were between a brother and a sister, and are they? They're not.
No.
No.
There's no brother and sister. Yeah.
They were trying to they're not real scenes, right? So, but they were just trying to get this dynamic of sort of a past, and they were very emotional scenes. And I got.
Oh no, it's because she has a sister in the show.
Oh, she has a sister. Okay, so that I guess is
played by Katie Lotz. Yeah.
Katie Lotz. Yeah. So you know what? That's the role. Katie Lotz. Girl. Yeah, she's the one. Katie Cassidy was already cast.
Okay, right.
Yeah. The names are bad. But yes, it's Katie Lotz that got this role. So who does she play?
The White Canary.
Right, Canary. Yeah. So that's who it was.
Okay.
And anyways, it got super close. They said it's between you and one other person. And I had a new agent in Toronto, and she said, this is huge. This is a big role, because I didn't know anything about the show. And then finally I got the call saying, it's not you. And I said, okay, well, on to the next. So a year goes by, I think maybe a year and a half. I don't remember. And I go down to Los Angeles because I start going every year to go audition
for a pilot season. Right?
For a pilot season. And the casting director of Arrow sends me an audition. and they say, we really liked you 2 years ago or whatever. We'd love to see you.
There you go.
Oh yeah, exactly what happens. And auditioned for. They didn't tell me who it was at the time. The scenes were. I remember I was playing a journalist, and had another callback. The second time I went in, there was all the execs, the creators, everybody.
Right.
And they said, yeah, you got the part. We're still not going to tell you who it is. And we're going to fly you to LA. We're going to fly to Vancouver. So I go to Vancouver, and I think, a couple of days before they finally tell me, like, this is your character name, and you, this is your backstory, and you had a baby with Oliver Queen. I was like, what? This is crazy. And I had one day. It was my first episode was with Oliver's mom, where she gives me the check. Yeah. And that began the Arrow experience.
I love Arrow so much, and that whole universe. I remember I watched the pilot when it first aired, and I was like, this is amazing, because I was a big Smallville fan. Growing up, and then I was like, oh, he's not my Green Arrow. The Green Arrow in Smallville was my Green Arrow, and then fell in love with Steven, and it was amazing. And then got to meet him a few years later, which at his premiere, and it was a great guy. He's nice. So what was that experience working with him?
Oh, it was wonderful. It was again, like my first day was, I didn't meet him yet, but once we finally met, we became friends really quickly. Such a nice guy. Really welcomed me in he everyone says this, but he set such a great tone for the whole set. So like after that, they would I would just get these calls out of the blue saying, are you available next month for the day? We're going to fly you out. You have another episode or something. And I'd say, okay. And
were you busy when they called sometimes? You were like, oh, I gotta.
There were absolutely. There were certain periods where I couldn't. And so I missed out. They wouldn't write me in. Right. And then sometimes they would ask for my availability, and I was available, and then they would say, never mind, we're not doing it anymore. So you could tell that the way that they were writing was very fluid. Like sometimes they would play with the idea of bringing me back, and they didn't, or they did sometimes. So it was always it was a very fun kind of thing in the back of my mind, that sometimes you just get a call and you're just off to Vancouver. And there, you stay in this hotel, and the downstairs, like the bar area, there's like this bartender who's so nice, and he's always like, all the actors, like, go have a drink after work and talk to him. So, you start to, like, I would have these people in Vancouver that I would see, once in a while, and it was like, oh, I haven't been there in so long, I miss them, but I would get into my routines when I got there. I would go straight to Stanley Park. I would run on the seawall. It was such an amazing job that just once in a while, you just head out there. And Steven, was always the best. And I remember, nearing the end of the series, he was talking to me about how he really wanted Samantha to stay, because he liked the idea that Oliver had a relationship with a female character that wasn't romantic. He thought that was like and I agree, like it's a really interesting, it's very different than all of the other, relationships that he has. So he wanted to explore that. He liked the idea of that sort of co-parenting, idea for his character. And he was like, I'm rooting for you to live. Like, I really want you to live. And I was like, me too. And I think, he said that when we all did that big, I guess it was a big crossover, like I was kidnapped, and I don't remember.
Was that your last episode? Because when you went out, your death scene, spoiler alert, was in the season 5 finale, right? So
yeah,
that was my favorite episode of the show, by the way.
Yes, that was my final. Yeah, so I guess he brought that up before that, and I remember he was in Toronto doing Code 8, which was like his feature that he did with.
Yeah, that's where I met him at his premiere for Code 8.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he was in town and he was shooting very close to my house. So I was like, oh, I'll come by and say hi. And I went over and I was like, so any news? And he goes, it's not good news.
Oh boy.
And he told me, and I go, so how do I die? And he goes, very badly. Like, it was just like and we laughed, and I was like, all right, well, like that's just how, this story will go. And so then I finally got the next episode and I read it, and yeah, we shot that. And then that final, he's holding me and I die, and that was it. So it was the end of an era. It was a couple of years of a really interesting, I'm so glad I could be a little bit part of the universe. It's an awesome show. Best episode to die in, though. I agree. I think I watched when it aired, that episode, I watched it at least 4 times. Yeah, it's a very epic episode. I mean, how the writers keep track of everything, I don't know. Like the amount of crossover storylines and characters and histories. I mean, and it was 23 episodes a year, I think. Yeah. So that's a lot. They were shooting all year. I mean, I remember when my first episode aired, I got a taste of some of the darker part of the fandom. Yeah. Everyone hated me because I was, apparently putting some sort of wrench between Felicity and Oliver. But by the end, I was, people seem to have, no one really loved, like, there's some people that love Samantha, but most people are like, why did you get involved? And you should have done this and you should have done that. But by the end, a lot of people were saying, actually, we have a lot of sympathy for her and she should have lived. And I'm like, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. Well, no, I think your time there was to be part of the crossover and to die in that episode. Your time was great. It's unbelievable. Yeah. What did you do after that? Did you went straight into Bad Blood or? No. So Arrow. Yeah. So after Arrow, I did. I did Defiance. So Defiance was my first series regular role in Toronto. Right. And that was great. That was my first real, big role on a television show. So I learned so much there. And so I did Defiance. Then I started doing some smaller roles, guest starring on sci-fi shows here in Toronto. Right. And it's so funny, trying to recount your own resume without looking. I'm like, what year? It's okay. No, I think it's interesting how it all happened. And no, it's it all leads into, and now I'm no, Arrow was before Defiance. Okay. And then there was Defiance, and then then there was Shadowhunters. Shadowhunters was the next sort of big role, and the showrunners of Shadowhunters were the showrunners of Defiance. So actually, it was about 5 years later, I got an audition and I got an email saying, hey, it's great to see you. Right. That's another one where I auditioned for it, and they wrote me back and they said, your audition was so great, but we're looking for someone much older for the role of Lilith, because she's really supposed to be very maternal, an older maternal figure. Yeah. And I said, all right, that's totally fine. I love the material. Thank you for the opportunity, and, good luck.
Yeah.
And the following weekend, I just get a Facebook message from one of the showrunners, and he goes, I'm not supposed to tell you this because you're going to get a call, but it actually, you're getting the role. And I was like, what? And I finally got the call from my agent, and I was like, I actually already know, but yay. And again, I didn't know what I was auditioning for. So then they called me and they said, by the way, you're going to be the baddest villain of our season. And we're so excited. And so that happened. And then while I was shooting Shadowhunters in Toronto, The Expanse was auditioning for the role of Monica.
Right.
And so I remember I went in and I got that role, and that was just for season 3. So I did season 3, finished Shadowhunters, Expanse went into season 4. I wasn't in it.
Yeah.
And then suddenly Expanse called again and said, you're in season 5.
Yeah.
So then I did that. And, so that's, that's how you're always working, auditioning, this and that.
Yeah. Let's talk about Shadowhunters for a second, because I have a lot of friends that are a fan of that. And I'm sure they want me to ask questions, but I heard that you read the books, right? And you got into them, right?
Yeah, I read. So again, when they finally called and said, this is the role you're playing, and they said, we want you to watch the second half of the first season, because so the showrunners changed halfway through in the first season.
Right.
And they said, we want you to watch our episodes because it's a different tone. It's a bit darker. We want you to get an idea of that. And they also said, we'd love for you to read the book that this particular season is based on. So I didn't read all of the books, but it was, I forget what it's called, but it was the one based for season 3. And I totally got into it. Like, they're very, I always say, like, they're very cozy, like,
right.
It's very cozy, kind of like
romantic.
Romantic, but also there's something about, New York City at night and the underworld, and it's there's a darkness to it, but it's not too dark. Like, so it's just a really fun world, especially reading it at night, before you're going to bed. Like, it's just like a really, really nice world to live in. So I loved the books when I started, and then getting a sense of who Lilith was from the books. And then also the showrunners encouraged me to, they said, look, this role is obviously, she's a mythical character generally in literature. And so do your thing. Like, if you want to go research, interesting stuff about the way she has been portrayed in literature. So I did that, which was really fascinating. And I just got a really good sense of who she was. Yeah. And
what was it like to play a villain? That you said she was like, when you got the call that they were pitching it, she's a really or baddie or baddie. So what was it like?
They use the term big bad, which is like, sort of the biggest, the worst
exciting.
kind.
Yeah.
I play villains all the time.
Yeah.
And I think, especially with Lilith, it was very obvious why she was so bad, because she was so hurt. Like, her pain is so deep that it was very easy to access that, because, it's a harder thing if you're playing like a sociopath, who just kills for no reason, like that sort of thing. Obviously, that's a very interesting. It just takes a little bit more maneuvering. I think with Lilith, it's like someone killed her son, so the revenge is very clear. Like, I know why I want to do this. So, and I was just given free reign. Like, the things that she was just so bad. The things I would read in the script were like, oh my God, like when I give Jace the love potion to like fall out of love with Kat, and like I'm just so conniving, and eventually I really do get my revenge, which I love.
Yeah.
So it was great. I went one of the first days I went in to do my hair and makeup test, and they tried all these different looks, and we finally presented it to Matt Hastings, who's the director and also one of the producers. And he was like, oh no, like you look like Ali Ordolis, who plays another character on the show. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to get fired. Like I thought I was losing the job, because that happens all the time. Like, right. Last minute, somebody's like, it's just not working. We need to. So I thought, oh no, like I did all this work and I'm so excited. But all he said was, he just looked at me, goes, to the hair. It was, I don't remember who was there on that day, but he said, dye her hair black. And he was like, are you okay with that? And I was like, yeah, sure. And so we just went pitch black, dyed the hair, redid it. And then he was like, yes, this is Lilith. And that really helped me get into the role too.
Yeah.
The evil look.
Yeah. I heard you make a playlist for all your characters. So I was just curious about that. I like you said, the hair helped, and I'm sure like the costumes and everything that helps you get into character too. But talk about the playlist too. Yeah.
Well, the costumes, I would say, were the real, like one of the final like pieces.
Yeah.
And again, I've never worked on a show up until Bad Blood, where the costumes are really incredible. But they put me in these gowns, so there was this sort of like regal aspect to Lilith that I wouldn't have really, I don't think, been able to capture without these costumes. So we got the costumes. And then the other thing that was really important were the nails, because she uses her nails to kill. And so we tried a bunch of different places in Toronto to do, these false, the ones that remain on. And for about 6 months of the year, I had nails this long, I don't know, like that long, black.
Right.
And that really helped. And then the playlists, were really helpful for me when I was on set, because, a lot of Lilith's scenes where she was alone. She was in her penthouse and she was brewing, and she was just, there's not a lot to play off of. A lot of times you get your actors that you're in your scene partnered together and you're just doing, but this, you're really alone. So I really made sure that I got into her head a little bit beforehand. And I wonder if my playlist is still on this phone. I lose my phone a lot, by the way.
Yeah.
So, but one of the songs I would listen to on repeat was a song from The Social Network.
Okay.
Called Hand Over Bruises.
Oh yeah, I love that song.
Yeah.
I love to write to that song.
Yeah, it's a great writing song. That whole soundtrack. So Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, and such a beautiful soundtrack. But that song was on repeat for Lilith. Like, that is what I would listen to, and I would walk around the set. And there's just something about there's a darkness, but there's also really strong energy. Like she is so active in what she's trying to do. She's not just somber and laying around. She has a plan. So I just found the energy of that song to just really, really get Lilith into her head. And Dom would always make, one day I actually did lose my phone. So during the shooting, and I needed to listen to my music. So I actually brought my laptop to set with headphones, and I was walking around set holding my laptop.
Right. And
he thought, like, he made so much fun of me for that, because I'm just like using it as a iPod basically. But I was like, I need to listen to my music.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a few minutes left before I let you go. But talk a bit about The Expanse. What's the experience been like?
Yeah, The Expanse has been, I mean, to be part of something that is so critically acclaimed and loved is really special. And also something that was canceled and brought back by Amazon. That was an incredible thing to see. And I think the role that I play on that show is like one of my favorite roles I've had so far. She's so smart, and she has evolved so much since the first time we meet her. Yeah. She's really, they put so much care into all the characters, even the ones that show up once in a while, like mine. So I loved watching the show, and so I'm also a fan. And yeah, I think the final season's going to be awesome.
Great. Yeah. All right. I want to ask you before we end with our game, how do you deal with anxiety and mental health? Because creatively, it's I'm sure you're also really busy, so it must get to you at some point. And how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think like us creative types are, there's the gift is that we get to create, but you also can absorb so much. Like, I watch the news and I'm drained because I'm, you just absorb. You're just those sensitive people. So I really need my alone time, and I don't ever sacrifice that. And that was a hard thing to do, because over the years I've learned to say to my friends, actually, on Saturday, I need to just be alone. Yeah. And even if it's the only day we could see each other, if I've reached that place where I'll burn out. So for me, that's so important. And then also doing things that have nothing to do with work or creative stuff, like, going for a long walk, or, I never baked before, but now I'm like obsessed with baking, because it's like an activity that like you're using your hands, and it's a really satisfying process, but you're not thinking about story, and, you're not getting, it's just tasks in front of you. So I think, nurturing yourself, the well of yourself, by just like shutting everything out once or twice a week, if you can, even just a couple of hours, I think is really important.
Yeah. Does your dog help?
Oh, my dog is an antidepressant, basically. He is a walking antidepressant. He adds so much to my life, and he also gets me out, like outside, which I think is really helpful. Like sometimes I don't have him. I share him sometimes with my friend, and I can get stuck in the house doing work, and I'll have not been outside until like 8 p.m. And it's like, oh, fuck. And
they're really great for that, right?
Yeah, exactly. The dog, it's like 7 a.m. I got to get out. So yes, I also highly recommend getting a dog. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I take life too seriously, and I just look at her and I'm like, okay.
Yes.
Okay. It's not that important.
Exactly.
Yeah. They live in the moment, and they're like, it's just they don't look at the world the same as us, and it just reminds you that
moment to moment.
Yeah.
Where's the next meal? I'm like, great.
Yeah. All right. So the game is called the Feel Good Game. What's your feel good movie?
What's my feel good movie? I would say Sister Act.
Yeah. Why?
Oh, because I mean, it's so hilarious. The music is amazing. And it's, the story is of people coming together who would never have come together before, and forging amazing friendships.
Yeah. I watched it for the first time recently. Loved it.
Oh my God. It's the best. I watch it like once a week.
Do you like the sequels too?
Yeah, I actually just watched this Direct 2 again. But there's something about that first one that's just like, it's gold.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What's your feel-good TV show?
Frasier. I watch Frasier all the time. I wouldn't say it is kind of feel good, but it's feel good because it's very funny and it's very it's just absurd. So I love to laugh to feel good.
That's great. Feel good song.
Feel good song. That's a really good question. I'm like, it's a really sad music. I listen to a lot of Steve Reich. Like it's really upbeat. Like I'll listen to that if I'm like on a run or something. So I'd say something like that.
Yeah. Do you have an album from start to finish that makes you feel good?
I'd say probably No Need to Argue, Cranberries. Okay. That's a classic start to finish for me.
I'm going to go listen to that. Never did.
It's so good. Oh my God.
I know.
It's a good album.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for doing this. And
thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Nice to talk to you.
Yeah. And that's our meeting for the first time. So yeah.
I know. Yeah. Nice to see you.
Yeah, you too. And Anna Hopkins, thank you for coming on the Very Creative Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
You've been listening to the Very Creative Podcast with Gabriel Veiga. To find out more, go to gabrielveiga.com/podcast or find us on social media at the Very Creative Podcast. You can also watch the podcast on YouTube. Just search for the Very Creative Podcast and subscribe.